The night was cold and dark outside the hangar, the only light coming from the dimly lit lamps lining the runway. Inside the air-conditioned smoke-filled room, Owen Grady lay sleeping, his body battered and bandaged from a recent encounter with a dangerous dinosaur. His right eye was covered in bandages, his right arm heavily bandaged and hanging limply at his side. As Owen slept, two unexpected visitors entered the room. It was a smaller dinosaur duo, the male Indoraptor and the female Velociraptor named Blue. They walked silently, holding their clawed arms together, a romantic gesture in the world of dinosaurs. They smiled at each other, exchanging silent romantic dialogues as they made their way toward Owen. Without waking him, Indoraptor and Blue settled down on the floor, cuddling together as they prepared to sleep. Blue, in her sleeping state, began to release tears from her reptilian eyes, sobbing silently in her curled-up position on the floor. She mourned the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta, feeling their absence keenly. Indoraptor, sensing Blue's sadness, raised his clawed arm and gently patted her body. He whispered comforting words to her in his sleeping state, assuring her that everything would be okay. Blue continued to cry, hugging Indoraptor tightly as she expressed her grief over the loss of her team. As Indoraptor held her in his arms, Blue began to relax, slowly returning to her sleeping state. She snuggled closer to her romantic husband, finding solace in his presence. Indoraptor continued to comfort her, using his long clawed hand to pat her back gently, urging her to relax and let go of her sadness. Together, the romantic dinosaur duo slept peacefully, their bond strong in the face of tragedy. Despite the dangers they faced in their world, they found comfort and strength in each other's presence. As the night wore on, Owen Grady stirred in his sleep, unaware of the touching moment that had unfolded before him. The morning sun began to rise, casting a soft light into the hangar. Owen awoke to find Indoraptor and Blue still sleeping peacefully on the floor, their bodies intertwined in a display of love and companionship. He watched them for a moment, struck by the beauty of their relationship in the midst of chaos and danger. As Owen slowly got to his feet, he felt a renewed sense of determination. The love and loyalty he had witnessed between Indoraptor and Blue inspired him to continue fighting for the safety of dinosaurs and humans alike. With a grateful smile, Owen left the hangar, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And so, the story of Owen Grady, Indoraptor, and Blue continued, a tale of love, courage, and resilience in a world where the past and the present collided in thrilling and unexpected ways. Words. 470. The air in the hangar was thick with smoke, the only source of light coming from the dimly lit lamps scattered around the room. Owen Grady sat slumped in a chair, his injured body covered in bandages. His right eye was swollen shut, and his right arm hung limply at his side. He was fast asleep, completely unaware of the two unexpected visitors that had quietly entered the room. The Indoraptor and Blue, the female Velociraptor, moved stealthily across the floor, their clawed arms intertwined in a silent display of affection. They exchanged loving glances, their eyes filled with a deep sense of understanding and connection. As they settled down on the floor to sleep, Blue let out a soft sob, tears streaming down her closed reptilian eyes. "I miss my team so much," she whispered in a voice filled with sorrow. "I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta." Indoraptor, sensing her pain, reached out a clawed hand to gently pat her on the back. "Shish, relax my sweetheart," he murmured. "It's going to be okay. You are not alone. I am here for you." Blue snuggled closer to him, seeking comfort in his embrace. She continued to cry silently, mourning the loss of her Velociraptor teammates. Indoraptor held her close, offering her a sense of security and warmth in the darkness of the hangar. As Blue wept, Indoraptor whispered words of reassurance, his voice filled with love and tenderness. "Don't worry, sweetie. I am here for you. Just relax and rest. I will protect you." Gradually, Blue's sobs subsided, her breathing steady as she drifted off to sleep in Indoraptor's arms. She clung to him, finding solace in his presence. In the quiet of the night, they lay together, entwined in a silent embrace, their bond unbreakable. The night passed, the hangar filled with the sound of their deep, steady breaths as they slept peacefully. Outside, the world was silent, the darkness enfolding them in its embrace. In the stillness of the room, a sense of calm settled over them, their hearts beating as one. As the first light of dawn filtered through the windows, Owen Grady stirred, his uninjured eye flickering open. He blinked in confusion, trying to make sense of the scene before him. He saw Blue and Indoraptor sleeping peacefully on the floor, their bodies intertwined in a display of love and devotion. A smile tugged at his lips as he watched them, a sense of wonder and awe filling his heart. In that moment, he realized the true power of love, transcending boundaries of species and language. He knew then that he was witnessing something truly special, a bond that defied all odds and brought light to the darkness. As Owen watched over them, a sense of peace washed over him. In the presence of Blue and Indoraptor, he felt a deep sense of gratitude for the beauty and resilience of life. And as the sun rose over the horizon, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold, he knew that he was witness to a love that would endure through all obstacles and trials. And so, in the quiet of the hangar, amidst the smoke-filled air and the darkness of night, a silent love story unfolded, touching the hearts of all who witnessed it. The bond between Blue and Indoraptor was a testament to the power of love, a force that could conquer even the darkest of nights and bring light to the world. And as they slept peacefully in each other's arms, Owen Grady knew that he had witnessed something truly magical, a love that would stand the test of time. Words. 608. It was a dark and stormy night as Owen Grady sat alone in the air-conditioned, smoke-filled room of the hangar, his body covered in bandages from his recent encounter with the dangerous dinosaurs. The right side of his face was heavily injured, his right eye barely visible through the bandages, and his right arm hung limply at his side. Despite the pain, Owen had managed to drift off to sleep in the uncomfortable chair he had dragged into the room. As Owen slept, a soft rustling sound filled the room, and two figures emerged from the shadows. It was a pair of smaller dinosaurs, a male Indoraptor and a female Velociraptor named Blue. They walked quietly into the room, their clawed arms intertwined in a gesture of intimacy. Blue's bright blue scales glistened in the dim light, and the Indoraptor's sleek black body moved with a graceful fluidity. The two dinosaurs settled on the floor in front of Owen, their bodies pressed together as they curled up to sleep. Blue released a silent sob, tears streaming down her reptilian face as she mourned the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta. The Indoraptor gently comforted her, using his claws to pat her back and pull her closer to him. "Shish, my sweetheart, it's going to be okay," the Indoraptor whispered softly. "You will wake this guy up." Blue continued to cry softly, her body shaking with grief as she clung to her husband for comfort. "I miss my team so much," she murmured, her voice heavy with sorrow. The Indoraptor tightened his embrace, holding her close as she sobbed. "Don't worry, sweetie, I am here for you," he said, his voice soothing and comforting. "Just relax, relax." Blue slowly began to calm down, her sobs fading into quiet sniffles as she snuggled closer to the Indoraptor. She felt his warmth and strength surrounding her, providing a sense of security and solace in the midst of her grief. As the storm raged outside, the two dinosaurs slept peacefully in each other's embrace, their bond unbreakable. Despite the dangers and challenges they knew they had each other to lean on, to support and comfort each other through the darkest of times. In the morning, Owen awoke to find the two dinosaurs still curled up on the floor, their bodies entwined in a silent yet powerful display of love and loyalty. He watched them for a moment, touched by the depth of their connection and the strength of their bond. As he gazed at the sleeping dinosaurs, Owen realized that even in a world filled with danger and uncertainty, there was still beauty and love to be found. And in that moment, he felt a sense of peace and hope wash over him, knowing that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he would face them with courage and determination, just like the brave dinosaurs who had touched his heart in ways he never thought possible. And so, as the sun rose on a new day, Owen knew that he would always carry the memory of the Indoraptor and Blue in his heart, a reminder of the enduring power of love in the face of darkness and despair. And with that thought, he rose from his chair, ready to face whatever challenges the day may bring, knowing that he was not alone in this world. Words. 565. It was a dark and stormy night outside the hangar, the sound of the rain hitting the roof drowned out by the hum of the air conditioning inside the smoke-filled room where Owen Grady lay sleeping. His injuries were severe, with his right eye covered in bandages and his right arm hung in a sling. Despite the pain, he slept soundly in the chair, his body completely motionless. As the night wore on, two figures silently entered the room. The smaller of the two, a male Indoraptor, and the female Velociraptor Blue, walked arm in arm, their clawed hands intertwined in a silent display of affection. They moved quietly, careful not to disturb Owen as they made their way to the spot where he sat sleeping. Once they reached their destination, the two dinosaurs settled down on the floor, Blue curling up beside the Indoraptor. They cuddled together, the warmth of their bodies offering comfort in the cold room. Blue, in her sleep, began to release tears from her closed reptilian eyes, her body shaking with silent sobs. "I miss my team so much. I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta," she whispered softly, her voice full of sadness. The Indoraptor, sensing her distress, raised his clawed arm and gently patted her on the back. "Shish, relax my sweetheart. It's going to be okay. You are going to wake this guy up," he reassured her in a comforting tone. He used his claws to pull her closer, holding her tight as she continued to cry. Blue turned to face him, her tears wetting the floor beneath her. She hugged him tightly, seeking solace in his embrace. Indoraptor hugged her back, his own silent tears mingling with hers. "Don't worry, sweetie. I am here for you. Just relax," he murmured, his voice filled with love and understanding. As the night stretched on, the two dinosaurs slept peacefully, their bodies entwined in a silent show of love and support. Blue's sobs gradually subsided, her breathing steady as she found comfort in the arms of her. As the night grew darker outside the hangar, the air inside was thick with smoke from the various machinery and equipment. Owen Grady lay motionless in a chair, heavily injured with bandages covering his right eye and arm. He was fast asleep, unaware of the two unexpected visitors that had entered the room. The two dinosaurs, a male Indoraptor and a female Velociraptor named Blue, walked in hand, their clawed arms interlocked in a romantic gesture. They moved silently, not wanting to disturb the sleeping man. As they settled down on the floor in front of Owen, they exchanged loving looks and gentle touches, their bond evident even in their reptilian features. Blue, in her sleeping state, began to shed tears from her closed eyes, a silent sob escaping her sharp-toothed mouth. She mourned the loss of her Velociraptor teammates Charlie, Echo, and Delta, tears rolling down her scaly cheeks. Indoraptor, seeing her distress, comforted her with gentle pats and soothing words, reassuring her that everything would be okay. As Blue continued to cry and hug her husband, Indoraptor, he held her close, using his claws to draw her nearer to him. He whispered words of comfort, telling her to relax and assuring her that he was there for her. Blue slowly began to calm down, her sobs quieting as she snuggled closer to Indoraptor, finding solace in his embrace. The scene was a mix of sadness and love, a display of the deep bond between these two creatures. Despite their fierce and primal instincts, they were also capable of tenderness and compassion towards each other. The sound of Blue's soft cries and the rustling of their sleeping forms filled the air, creating a hauntingly beautiful atmosphere in the dimly lit hangar. As the night wore on, Owen stirred in his sleep, disturbed by the sounds around him. He opened his good eye and saw the two dinosaurs sleeping peacefully on the. It was a dark and stormy night as Owen Grady sat alone in the air-conditioned, smoke-filled room of the hangar, his body covered in bandages from his recent encounter with the dangerous dinosaurs. The right side of his face was heavily injured, his right eye barely visible through the bandages, and his right arm hung limply at his side. Despite the pain, Owen had managed to drift off to sleep in the uncomfortable chair he had dragged into the room. As Owen slept, a soft rustling sound filled the room, and two figures emerged from the shadows. It was a pair of smaller dinosaurs, a male Indoraptor and a female Velociraptor named Blue. They walked quietly into the room, their clawed arms intertwined in a gesture of intimacy. Blue's bright blue scales glistened in the dim light, and the Indoraptor's sleek black body moved with a graceful fluidity. The two dinosaurs settled on the floor in front of Owen, their bodies pressed together as they curled up to sleep. Blue released a silent sob, tears streaming down her reptilian face as she mourned the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta. The Indoraptor gently comforted her, using his claws to pat her back and pull her closer to him. "Shish, my sweetheart, it's going to be okay," the Indoraptor whispered softly. "You will wake this guy up." Blue continued to cry softly, her body shaking with grief as she clung to her husband for comfort. "I miss my team so much," she murmured, her voice heavy with sorrow. The Indoraptor tightened his embrace, holding her close as she sobbed. "Don't worry, sweetie, I am here for you," he said, his voice soothing and comforting. "Just relax, relax." Blue slowly began to calm down, her sobs fading into quiet sniffles as she snuggled closer to the Indoraptor. She felt his warmth and strength surrounding her, providing a sense of security and solace in the midst of her grief. As the storm raged outside, the two dinosaurs slept peacefully in each other's embrace, their bond unbreakable. Despite the dangers and challenges they faced, they knew they had each other to lean on, to support and comfort each other through the darkest of times. In the morning, Owen awoke to find the two. The night outside the hangar was dark and quiet, with only the faint hum of the air conditioning breaking the silence. Inside the smoke-filled room of the hangar, Owen Grady sat slouched in a chair, his body covered in bandages. His right eye was heavily injured, and his right arm hung limply at his side. He was deeply asleep, his breath slow and steady. As the minutes ticked by, the door to the main hall creaked open, and two smaller dinosaurs slipped inside. The male Indoraptor, named Ripper, and the female adult Velociraptor, named Blue, walked hand in claw, their movements graceful and silent. They shared a bond that went beyond mere friendship, a romantic connection that was evident in the way they looked at each other with adoration and tenderness. Ripper and Blue made their way to where Owen sat sleeping, and without disturbing him, they settled down on the floor near him. They curled up together, their bodies touching, and soon they drifted off to sleep. But as they slept, tears silently streamed down Blue's face, her closed reptilian eyes betraying her sorrow. "I miss my team so much," Blue murmured in her sleep, her voice filled with pain and longing. "I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta." Ripper, ever the loving partner, reached out a clawed hand and gently patted Blue's side. "Shish, relax, my sweetheart," he whispered softly. "It's going to be okay. You will wake this guy up." He used his claws to pull Blue closer to him, offering her comfort and solace in her time of grief. Blue clung to him, her sobs quiet but heart-wrenching. She turned to face him, burying her face in his chest as she continued to mourn the loss of her Velociraptor teammates. "I miss my team so much," Blue repeated, her voice muffled against Ripper's chest. "They are gone now." Ripper held her close, his own emotions hidden behind his stoic exterior. He stroked her back soothingly, his touch a balm to her wounded heart. "Shish, don't worry, sweetie," he murmured. "I am here for you. Just relax, take it easy, and calm down." Blue gradually quieted, her tears drying on her cheeks as she snuggled closer to Ripper. A small smile played on her lips as she nestled against him, finding comfort in his presence. The love they shared, while unconventional, was undeniable and unwavering. As they slept peacefully on the floor, their bodies entwined in an intimate embrace, the hangar was filled with a sense of tranquility and warmth. Despite the darkness that surrounded them, Ripper and Blue found solace in each other, their love a beacon of light in a world filled with chaos and uncertainty. And as the night wore on, the air in the hangar grew colder, but the warmth of their love kept them safe and secure, cocooned in each other's arms. Together, they faced the challenges of the world, united in their unwavering bond of love and devotion. Words. 497. The night was cold and dark outside the hangar, but inside the air-conditioned smoke-filled room, Owen Grady lay heavily injured. His right eye was covered in bandages, and his right arm hung bandaged and immobilized. He was sleeping on a chair, completely motionless, his breathing shallow and labored. As Owen slept, two smaller dinosaurs entered the room. They moved silently, their clawed arms entwined, their eyes filled with love and longing. Ripper, the male Indoraptor, and Blue, the female Velociraptor, were a romantic duo, inseparable despite the dangers that surrounded them. They settled down on the floor in front of Owen, lying close together, their bodies touching. Blue curled up, tears slipping from her closed reptilian eyes as she silently sobbed, mourning the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta. She whispered in a sorrowful voice, "I miss my team so much." Ripper raised his clawed arm and gently patted Blue's body, trying to comfort her. He whispered softly, "Shish, relax my sweetheart. It's going to be okay. You're going to wake this guy up. He used his claws to pull Blue closer to him, offering her warmth and solace. She clung to him, crying and grieving, but finding a sense of peace in his embrace. As she turned to face him, their eyes met, filled with love and understanding. Blue continued to cry, but her sobs grew softer as Ripper hugged her back, murmuring comforting words. He reassured her, "Don't worry, sweetie. I'm here for you. Just relax, take it easy, and calm down." Slowly, Blue began to calm down, her tears drying on her cheek. She smiled faintly, her reptilian eyes glistening with emotion. She snuggled closer to Ripper, feeling safe and loved in his arms. As they drifted off to sleep, the room was filled with a sense of peace and tranquility. Despite the dangers that lurked outside, in that moment, they found solace in each other's presence. The bond between them was unbreakable, stronger than any obstacle that stood in their way. And as the night stretched on, the romantic duo slept peacefully, wrapped in each other's embrace, their love shining bright in the darkness of the hangar. They were a reminder that even in the face of adversity, love and compassion could prevail, bringing comfort and hope in the most unlikely of places. Words. 391. It was a dark and stormy night outside the hangar, the rain beating against the metal walls as the wind howled through the trees. Inside the air-conditioned smoke-filled room of the hangar, Owen Grady lay motionless in a chair, his body battered and bruised, his right eye covered in bandages. His arm hung limply at his side, also bandaged from his recent injuries. As Owen slept, two figures entered the room silently. They were a pair of romantic dinosaurs, a male Indoraptor named Ripper and a female Velociraptor named Blue. The two creatures walked hand in claw, their eyes filled with love and longing as they made their way towards the sleeping man. Ripper and Blue settled down on the floor in front of Owen, curling up together in a silent embrace. Blue began to cry softly, tears running down her reptilian cheeks as she mourned the loss of her teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta. Ripper reached out a clawed hand to gently pat her back, offering comfort in his own way. "Shish, relax my love," he whispered softly. "It's going to be okay. You are not alone." Blue clung to Ripper, her sobs slowly quieting as she buried her face in his side. She whispered through her tears, "I miss my team so much. They are gone, and I am alone." Ripper held her close, his own eyes filled with sorrow for her pain. He stroked her back with his clawed hand, soothing her as she slowly drifted off to sleep, still clinging to him in her slumber. As Blue slept, Ripper watched over her, his sharp golden eyes fixed on her face. He felt a pang of sadness for the loss she had suffered and vowed to never leave her side. Hours passed, and the storm outside raged on, the wind and rain battering the hangar. But inside, the two dinosaurs and the injured man slept peacefully, their hearts entwined in a bond that transcended species. As morning dawned, Owen stirred in his sleep, the sound of his breathing stirring Ripper and Blue from their slumber. They both awoke, their eyes meeting in a silent exchange of understanding. They knew their time together was limited, but they would cherish every moment they had. Ripper gently nudged Blue awake, and together, they stood and made their way towards Owen. The man stirred as they approached, his eyes fluttering open to see the two dinosaurs standing before him. For a moment, Owen was stunned, unsure if he was dreaming or awake. But then he saw the look of love and devotion in Ripper and Blue's eyes, and he knew that they were real. Tears filled Owen's eyes as he reached out a hand to touch them, a silent thank you passing between them. In that moment, they were not man and dinosaur, but companions united in their shared pain and longing. And as the sun rose on a new day, Owen, Ripper, and Blue stood together in the hangar, their hearts bound by a love that would never fade. And though their time together was fleeting, the memory of that night would stay with them forever, a testament to the power of love in all its forms. Words. 537. The room was filled with an eerie silence as Owen Grady lay motionless in his chair, the only sound coming from the faint hum of the air conditioning unit. Suddenly, the door creaked open and two smaller dinosaurs cautiously entered the room. Ripper, the male Indoraptor, was slightly larger than his mate Blue, the female Velociraptor. They walked quietly, their clawed arms intertwined, communicating silently through subtle movements and gestures. Ripper and Blue settled down on the floor, curling up together in a display of affection that was both tender and heartbreaking. As they lay there, Owen stirred slightly in his sleep, unaware of the presence of the two dinosaurs in the room. Blue, her reptilian eyes glistening with tears, began to quietly sob as memories of her fallen teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta, flooded her mind. "I miss my team so much," Blue whispered in a voice filled with sorrow, her body shaking with silent sobs. Ripper, sensing his mate's distress, reached out with his clawed hand and gently patted her back. "Shish, relax my sweetheart. It's going to be okay. You have me now," he murmured in a voice filled with love and compassion. Blue turned towards Ripper, her tear-streaked face nuzzling against his chest as she clung to him for comfort. The bond between them was palpable, a connection that transcended species and language. Ripper held her close, his own emotions masked by the stoic facade of his kind. As Blue continued to mourn, Ripper whispered words of reassurance and comfort, his deep voice soothing her troubled heart. "Don't worry, sweetie. I'm here for you. Just relax and calm down. We'll get through this together," he said, his tone gentle and reassuring. With Ripper by her side, Blue slowly began to regain her composure, her tears drying as she leaned into his embrace. Her eyes, still filled with sorrow, now held a glimmer of hope as she snuggled closer to her mate, finding solace in his presence. The night passed in peaceful silence, the air heavy with unspoken emotions and quiet understanding. As Owen slept on, oblivious to the poignant scene unfolding before him, Ripper and Blue stayed by each other's side, united in their shared grief and love. In the dim light of dawn, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the windows, Ripper and Blue awoke from their slumber. Their eyes met, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. With a gentle touch and a shared glance, they rose to their feet, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they left the room, their bond stronger than ever, Owen stirred in his sleep, a faint smile playing on his lips. In his dreams, he sensed the presence of the two dinosaurs who had touched his heart in ways he couldn't fully comprehend. And so, in the quiet hours of the morning, a fragile yet powerful connection was forged between man and beast, a bond that transcended barriers of language and understanding. And as Ripper and Blue ventured into the new day, their hearts filled with hope and love, they carried with them the knowledge that in the darkest of times, light and compassion could still prevail. Words, 531. As the night outside the hangar grew darker, the air-conditioned smoke-filled room inside the hangar seemed eerily quiet. Owen Grady, heavily injured with his right eye covered in bandages and his right arm hanging in a bandage, was sleeping on a chair, completely motionless. Suddenly, two smaller but romantic dinosaurs entered the room, Ripper, the male Indoraptor, slightly larger than his romantic wife Blue, the female adult Velociraptor. The duo held their clawed arms together as they silently walked towards where Owen was sleeping. They exchanged silent romantic dialogues, sharing a kiss before settling down on the floor to sleep. Blue, in her curled-up sleeping state, started releasing tears from her closed reptilian eyes, silently sobbing and murmuring, "I miss my team so much. I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta." Ripper, comforting her, gently patted her body and whispered, "Shush, relax my sweetheart love, it's going to be okay. You are going to wake this guy up." He used his claws to slowly drag Blue closer towards him, hugging and consoling her as she continued to cry and mourn the loss of her Velociraptor teammates. Ripper hugged her back, reassuring her, "Don't worry sweetie, I am here for you. Just relax, take it easy, and calm down." Blue slowly returned to her sleeping state, still hugging Ripper, a faint smile appearing on her face despite the tears in her eyes. The room was filled with a sense of comfort and love as the two romantic dinosaurs embraced each other in their sleep. Meanwhile, Owen, who had been sleeping throughout this emotional exchange, suddenly stirred. He opened his one good eye and saw the two dinosaurs cuddled up on the floor. Confusion washed over him as he slowly sat up, trying to process what he was witnessing. "What in the world?" Owen muttered, rubbing his eyes to make sure he wasn't dreaming. The sight of the two dinosaurs sleeping peacefully in front of him both amazed and confused him. The night was dark and cold outside the hangar, with only the faint sound of crickets breaking the stillness. Inside the air-conditioned, smoke-filled room of the hangar, Owen Grady lay sleeping in a chair, his injuries visible even in the dim light. His right eye was covered in bandages, and his right arm hung limply beside him, also bandaged. As Owen slept, two smaller dinosaurs entered the room, a male Indoraptor and a female Velociraptor, known as Ripper and Blue. The two dinosaurs were a romantic couple, holding their clawed arms together as they silently made their way towards Owen. They exchanged glances, their reptilian eyes filled with love and affection as they shared a silent moment of connection. Without disturbing Owen, Ripper and Blue settled down on the floor in front of him, cuddling together as they prepared to sleep. Blue, in her sleeping state, began to release tears from her closed reptilian eyes, silently sobbing and mourning the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta. Ripper gently patted Blue's body, offering comfort in his own silent way. He reassured her that everything would be okay, urging her to relax and calm down. Using his long clawed hand, Ripper gently rubbed Blue's head, soothing her as she continued to cry and hug him in her sleep. As Blue snuggled closer to Ripper, she expressed her sadness and longing for her lost teammates, her voice filled with grief and longing. Ripper continued to hold her, offering her solace and support as they both drifted off to sleep, their bond unbreakable even in the face of loss and pain. The atmosphere in the room was filled with a mix of love, sadness, and comfort, as Ripper and Blue shared a moment of connection and understanding that transcended language and species. In their own unique way, they found solace in each other's presence, offering a glimpse of hope in the midst of darkness and despair. As the night wore on, Owen remained asleep, unaware of the silent drama unfolding around him. The bond between Ripper and Blue grew stronger, their love shining through even in the darkest of times. And as they slept side by side, the warmth of their connection filled the room, a beacon of light in a world filled with uncertainty and danger. In the morning, as the first light of dawn filtered into the hangar, Owen stirred awake, his injuries a painful reminder of the dangers he faced. But as he looked down at Ripper and Blue, still sleeping peacefully on the floor, he felt a sense of hope and renewal. In the face of loss and adversity, the power of love and connection had prevailed, offering comfort and strength in the most unlikely of places. And as Owen watched over Ripper and Blue, he knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, a united front against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. Words. 494. The night outside the hangar was still, the only sound being the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. Inside the air-conditioned smoke-filled room of the hangar, Owen Grady lay sleeping, his body heavily bandaged and injured from a recent encounter with dangerous dinosaurs. His right eye was covered in bandages, his right arm hanging limply by his side. The room was dimly lit, casting eerie shadows on the walls. As Owen slept, two romantic smaller dinosaur duo entered the room. Ripper, the male Indoraptor, was slightly larger than his mate, Blue, the female adult Velociraptor. The two creatures held their clawed arms together, a sign of their deep bond. They walked silently towards Owen, careful not to wake him. Ripper and Blue settled down on the floor in front of Owen. The two dinosaurs cuddled each other, their bodies pressed close together for comfort. As Blue lay curled up on the floor, tears began to slide down her closed reptilian eyes. She sobbed silently, mourning the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta. Ripper, sensing Blue's sadness, gently patted her body with his clawed arm. He whispered comforting words to her in his sleeping state, assuring her that everything would be okay. He pulled her closer to him, offering her warmth and support in her time of grief. As Blue continued to cry and mourn, Ripper held her close, his own heart heavy with sorrow for his mate. He stroked her back with his long clawed hand, trying to soothe her pain. He reminded her that he was there for her, offering his love and strength to help her through the difficult time. Slowly, Blue began to calm down, her sobs quieting as she snuggled closer to Ripper. She looked up at him with tear-filled eyes, a small smile playing on her lips. She was grateful for his presence, his comforting touch easing her sadness. As the night wore on, Ripper and Blue drifted off to sleep, still entwined in each other's embrace. The room was filled with a sense of peace and love, despite the darkness that surrounded them. The two dinosaurs slept soundly, finding solace in each other's company. In the morning, Owen awoke to the sight of Ripper and Blue lying peacefully on the floor. He watched them for a moment, struck by the depth of their connection. Despite the dangers that lurked outside, these two creatures had found comfort and support in each other. As Owen got up to leave the room, he whispered a quiet thank you to Ripper and Blue for showing him the power of love and loyalty in even the most unlikely of places. And as he walked out into the bright morning light, he carried with him a newfound appreciation for the bonds that tie us all together, no matter our differences. Words. 474. As Owen Grady slept soundly in the air-conditioned, smoke-filled room of the hangar, little did he know that he was being watched by two romantic dinosaurs, Ripper the male Indoraptor and Blue the female adult Velociraptor. The two creatures held each other's clawed arms as they silently entered the room, their eyes filled with love and longing. Ripper, slightly larger than Blue, led his mate to a spot on the floor where they curled up together to sleep, their bodies fitting perfectly against each other. As Blue closed her reptilian eyes and let out silent sobs, tears streaming down her face, Ripper gently comforted her, patting her back with his long clawed hand. I miss my team so much. I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta, Blue whispered in a sad voice, her body shaking with emotion. Ripper, ever the protective mate, pulled Blue closer to him, hugging her tightly as she continued to cry. Shish, it's going to be okay. You have me now. I'll never leave your side, he said in a soothing tone, his words barely audible in the quiet room. As Blue slowly calmed down and snuggled closer to Ripper, she smiled through her tears, her reptilian eyes shining with love and gratitude. Thank you, my love. I don't know what I would do without you, she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. Ripper nuzzled his mate affectionately, his heart swelling with love for her. I promise to always protect you, Blue. We'll get through this together, he vowed, his deep voice resonating in the room. As they drifted off to sleep, the bond between Ripper and Blue grew stronger, their love for each other evident in every touch and every whisper. And as Owen Grady slept on, unaware of the tender scene unfolding before him, the two romantic dinosaurs found solace in each other's arms, facing the challenges ahead with unwavering devotion and courage. Words. 318. The night was quiet outside the hangar, with only the faint sounds of crickets chirping in the distance. Inside the air-conditioned, smoke-filled room of the hangar, Owen Grady lay heavily injured, his right eye covered in bandages and his right arm hanging limply at his side. He was sleeping in a chair, completely still, his breathing shallow and steady. As the minutes ticked by, two smaller dinosaurs entered the main hall of the hangar. Ripper, the male Indoraptor, slightly larger than his romantic partner Blue, the female adult Velociraptor, walked in holding their clawed arms together. They moved silently, their reptilian eyes gleaming in the dim light as they made their way towards Owen. Once they reached him, Ripper and Blue settled down on the floor, curling up next to each other. They cuddled close, their bodies pressed together in a loving embrace. Blue's closed eyes began to release tears, silent sobs escaping from her as she mourned the loss of her Velociraptor teammates. I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta so much, Blue whispered in her sleeping state, her voice filled with sorrow as she ground her teeth in anguish. Ripper reached out his clawed arm, gently patting Blue's side as he tried to comfort her. Shish, relax, my sweetheart, he murmured softly. It's going to be okay. You have me now. He used his claws to draw Blue closer to him, snuggling her against his own body. Blue continued to cry, her tears staining her scales as she clung to Ripper for comfort. As Blue sobbed, Ripper whispered words of reassurance. Don't worry, sweetie. I'm here for you. Just relax and calm down. I won't let anything happen to you. Blue slowly began to calm down, her sobs subsiding as she nestled closer to Ripper. He wiped the tears from her closed eyes with a gentle touch, his own reptilian gaze filled with love and concern for his mate. In her sleeping state, Blue smiled faintly, the weight of her grief easing as she felt Ripper's presence beside her. She held onto him tightly, finding solace in his embrace as they drifted off to sleep together on the cold hangar floor. Outside, the night continued to pass, the stars twinkling in the sky above the hangar. Inside, Ripper and Blue slept peacefully, their love for each other transcending the pain of their past. As dawn broke, Owen stirred in his chair, his injured body aching. Slowly opening his eyes, he was met with the sight of Ripper and Blue curled up together on the floor. Something stirred in his heart as he watched the two dinosaurs, a sense of admiration and respect for the bond they shared. As he gazed at them, Owen realized that love knew no bounds, not even between creatures as different as himself and the dinosaurs he once trained. And in that moment, he felt a glimmer of hope for a future where humans and dinosaurs could coexist in harmony. With a quiet smile, Owen settled back into his chair, content to watch over Ripper and Blue as they slept, a silent witness to the power of love in the most unlikely of places. Words. 529. The night was quiet outside the hangar, with only the sound of crickets chirping in the distance. Inside the air-conditioned, smoke-filled room of the hangar, Owen Grady lay sleeping on a chair, heavily injured from a recent encounter with a ferocious dinosaur. His right eye was covered in bandages, and his right arm hung in a sling, completely immobile. As Owen slept, two smaller dinosaurs quietly entered the room. The male, a sleek Indoraptor named Ripper, was slightly larger than his companion, Blue, a female adult velociraptor. The two dinosaurs were a romantic pair, often seen holding their clawed arms together in a display of affection. Ripper and Blue moved silently across the room, careful not to disturb Owen as they settled down on the floor to sleep. They cuddled together, their reptilian bodies intertwined in a show of love and support for one another. As Blue lay curled up on the floor, tears began to fall from her closed, reptilian eyes. She whispered in a sad, sobbing voice, "I miss my team so much. I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta." Ripper, sensing Blue's grief, gently reached out a clawed arm to comfort her. He whispered softly, "Shish, relax, my sweetheart. It's going to be okay. You are safe with me." He used his claws to draw Blue closer to him, offering her the warmth of his body and the reassurance of his presence. Blue clung to him, her sobs gradually quieting as she found solace in the comforting embrace of her mate. As Blue continued to mourn her fallen comrades, Ripper continued to offer his support, patting her back and rubbing his clawed fingers against her head in a soothing gesture. "Don't worry, sweetie," he murmured. "I am here for you. Just relax and calm down." Slowly, Blue began to calm down, her tears drying as she snuggled closer to Ripper, finding comfort and peace in his arms. She smiled faintly, her reptilian eyes brightening with emotion as she settled into a peaceful sleep, still holding onto her mate. Ripper, watching over Blue as she slept, felt a surge of love and gratitude for the bond they shared. He gently wiped the tears from her eyes with his clawed finger, his own eyes filled with tenderness and understanding. Together, the two dinosaurs lay entwined on the floor, their love and support for one another a beacon of light in the darkness of the night. Despite the challenges they faced, they knew that as long as they had each other, they could overcome anything that came their way. And as the night wore on, the soft sound of their breathing filled the air, a reminder of the strength and resilience that could be found in even the most unlikely of places. Words. 461. Owen Grady slowly stirred from his deep sleep, his body aching from the injuries he sustained. As he opened his eyes, he saw the dimly lit room filled with smoke and felt the cool air from the air conditioner. He blinked a few times to clear his vision and noticed two smaller dinosaurs lying on the floor in front of him. The male Indoraptor, Ripper, and the female Velociraptor, Blue, were curled up together, holding each other in a comforting embrace. Owen watched in awe as he saw the intimate display of affection between the two creatures. He couldn't help but feel a sense of warmth and love emanating from them. Ripper gently patted Blue's back as she cried in her sleep, mourning the loss of her teammates. Owen could hear her soft sobs echoing in the room, tugging at his heartstrings. He could see the deep bond between the two dinosaurs, their silent communication speaking volumes. As Ripper wiped away Blue's tears with his clawed finger, Owen felt a surge of emotion wash over him. Despite being from different species, the love and connection between the two creatures were undeniable. It was a bond that transcended language and species, a pure form of love that touched Owen's soul. The night was still outside the hangar, the stars twinkling in the dark sky. Inside the air-conditioned, smoke-filled room of the hangar, Owen Grady sat heavily injured, his right eye covered in bandages, his right arm hanging in a sling. He was sleeping on a chair, completely motionless, his breathing steady. As Owen slept, two romantic dinosaur duo entered the main hall. Ripper, the male Indoraptor, slightly larger than his romantic wife Blue, the female adult Velociraptor. The two dinosaurs held their clawed arms together as they silently walked towards Owen, careful not to wake him. They settled down on the floor in front of Owen, cuddling up to each other. Blue, in her sleeping state, began to release tears from her closed reptilian eyes, silently sobbing and mourning the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta. Ripper, in his sleeping state, gently patted Blue's body, comforting her with silent words. "Shish, relax my sweetheart. It's going to be okay. You'll wake him up," he whispered softly, using his claws to slowly drag Blue closer to him. Blue continued to cry and hug Ripper, expressing her sadness and longing for her lost teammates. Ripper hugged her back, using his clawed hand to wipe away her tears. "Don't worry, sweetie, I'm here for you. Just relax and calm down," he reassured her, gently rubbing his clawed finger on her head. As Blue slowly returned to her sleeping state, still hugging Ripper, she smiled through her tears, her reptilian eyes filled with emotion. The two dinosaurs lay intertwined on the floor, finding solace in each other's company. Suddenly, a noise outside the hangar caught their attention. Ripper lifted his head, his senses on high alert. Blue gripped his arm, her instincts telling her danger was near. They heard footsteps approaching, heavy and deliberate. Ripper motioned for Blue to stay quiet as he crept towards the door, ready to defend his mate at all costs. The door swung open, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness. Ripper's eyes narrowed, his instincts on high alert. The figure stepped into the room, a predatory glint in their eyes. Ripper let out a low growl, warning the intruder to stay back. Blue stood by his side, her claws at the ready. The figure took a step closer, a sinister smile playing on their lips. In a swift movement, Ripper lunged at the intruder, his claws slashing through the air. Blue followed suit, her speed and agility unmatched. The intruder stumbled back, taken aback by the ferocity of the dinosaurs. A fierce battle ensued, with Ripper and Blue fighting as one, their bond unbreakable. The intruder tried to fight back, but they were no match for the dynamic duo. With a final swipe of their claws, Ripper and Blue emerged victorious, the intruder lying defeated at their feet. As the adrenaline faded, Ripper and Blue stood side by side, victorious and united. Their love and strength had triumphed once again, proving that together they were unstoppable. And as they settled back down on the floor, Owen Grady still sleeping peacefully, the two romantic dinosaurs cuddled up together, finding peace and comfort in each other's arms. The night slowly drifted by, the stars shining brightly overhead, a silent witness to the unwavering bond between Ripper and Blue. Words, 551. It had been a long and exhausting day for Owen Grady as he sat slumped in a chair, heavily injured and covered in bandages. His right eye was injured, and his right arm hung heavily by his side. The air inside the hangar was filled with smoke, but Owen's breathing was steady as he drifted off into a deep sleep. Outside, the night was dark and silent, the only sound coming from the rustling of leaves in the wind. Inside the hangar, two smaller dinosaurs entered the room. Ripper, the male Indoraptor, slightly larger than his romantic partner, Blue, the female adult Velociraptor. The two creatures moved quietly through the room, their clawed arms intertwined as they exchanged silent glances filled with love and affection. Without disturbing Owen, the two dinosaurs settled down on the floor, curling up together for a peaceful slumber. Blue, in her sleep, began to release tears from her closed reptilian eyes, her body trembling with silent sobs. She expressed her longing for her former Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta, whom she missed dearly. Feeling Blue's distress, Ripper gently reached out and pulled her closer, offering comfort and solace in her time of sadness. He reassured her with soft words, telling her to relax and that everything would be okay. Blue continued to cry softly as she hugged Ripper, her heart heavy with grief. The loss of her teammates weighed heavily on her, and she found solace in the embrace of her loving partner. Ripper, too, mourned the loss of Blue's teammates and held her close, offering his support and understanding in her time of need. As Ripper gently wiped the tears from Blue's eyes, she began to calm down, a small smile of gratitude playing on her lips. She felt safe and loved in Ripper's arms, knowing that he would always be there for her. The night passed in peaceful slumber, the two dinosaurs wrapped in each other's embrace. The night was heavy with smoke and tension at the hangar as Owen Grady lay motionless in his chair, his injured eye and arm covered in bandages. The air-conditioned room provided little solace as the darkness outside enveloped the hangar in a shroud of mystery. Into this silent setting entered two romantic smaller dinosaur duo, Ripper, the male Indoraptor, slightly larger than his romantic partner Blue, the female adult Velociraptor. The two creatures walked hand in claw, their eyes locked in a silent exchange of affection. As they settled down on the floor to sleep, Blue's tears began to fall silently from her closed reptilian eyes. She curled up on the floor, sobbing in her sleep. "I miss my team so much," she whispered in her sorrowful tone. "I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta." Ripper, in his sleeping state, reached out to comfort her, patting her gently and pulling her close. "Shish, relax my sweetheart. It's going to be okay," he murmured in a soothing voice. He used his claws to draw her nearer, allowing her to cry into his chest as he held her tightly. Blue continued to cry and mourn the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, but Ripper was there to offer his silent support. "Don't worry, sweetie. I'm here for you. Just relax and calm down," he whispered, his clawed finger wiping away her tears. As Blue slowly began to ease her sorrow and return to a peaceful sleep, Ripper smiled down at her, his own eyes filled with love and understanding. He knew the pain she felt, but he was determined to be her rock in this moment of vulnerability. And as they lay together on the floor, the bond between them grew stronger, united in their shared grief and love for each other. The night passed, the hangar filled with the silent presence of the romantic dinosaur duo as they slept peacefully, their hearts intertwined in a love that transcended species. And as the morning light began to filter through the windows, casting As Owen Grady lay sleeping in the air-conditioned smoke-filled room of the hangar, completely unaware of the presence of the two romantic dinosaur duo, Ripper the male Indoraptor and Blue the female adult Velociraptor, who had silently entered the room. The two dinosaurs held their clawed arms together, exchanging silent romantic dialogues as they settled down on the floor to sleep, cuddling each other closely. Blue, in her sleeping state, began to release tears from her closed reptilian eyes, her body curled up as she silently sobbed and mourned the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta. Ripper, seeing his beloved Blue in distress, gently patted her body with his clawed arm, whispering comforting words in his sleeping state. "Shish, relax my sweetheart, it's going to be okay. You are going to wake this guy up," Ripper whispered softly to Blue, using his claws to drag her closer to him, snuggling her tightly. Blue continued to cry and hug Ripper, expressing her grief over the loss of her team. "I miss my team so much, and they are gone now," Blue sobbed quietly, her voice filled with sadness. Ripper, caressing her back with his clawed hand, reassured her, "Don't worry, sweetie, I am here for you. Just relax, take it easy, and calm down." Blue, comforted by Ripper's presence, slowly returned to her sleeping state, still hugging her husband tightly. As Ripper wiped the tears from her eyes with his clawed finger, Blue smiled, her reptilian eyes filled with tears but also with love and gratitude towards Ripper. The scene was a mix of heartbreak and comfort, a glimpse into the emotional lives of these prehistoric creatures. The bond between Ripper and Blue was strong, their love evident in every gesture and touch. Despite the challenges they faced, they found solace in each other's arms, a reminder that even in the darkest times, love could light the way. As Owen Grady stirred in his sleep, unaware of the tender moment unfolding before him, the two dinosaurs slept peacefully, their bodies entwined, their hearts connected. In this unlikely trio, a sense of unity and understanding prevailed, transcending the barriers of species and language. The night passed slowly, the only sound the soft breathing of the sleeping trio. As the first light of dawn crept through the windows of the hangar, Ripper and Blue awoke, their eyes meeting in a silent exchange of love and gratitude. They knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as partners in love and in life. And as Owen Grady finally opened his eyes, blinking in confusion at the sight of the two dinosaurs before him, he couldn't help but feel a sense of awe at the bond between them. In this strange and wondrous world of dinosaurs and humans, he had witnessed something truly remarkable, a love that transcended time and language, a love that he knew would endure even the darkest of days. And as he watched Ripper and Blue nuzzle each other affectionately, he couldn't help but smile, a newfound respect and admiration for these incredible creatures filling his heart. In that moment, he knew that he was truly in the presence of something extraordinary, a love that knew no bounds, a love that would guide them through whatever challenges lay ahead. As the sun rose on a new day, Owen Grady felt a renewed sense of hope and wonder, grateful for the unexpected gift of witnessing such a powerful and enduring love. Words. 587. The moon cast a pale glow over the abandoned hangar as Owen Grady lay slumped in a chair, his body battered and bruised from his latest encounter with the vicious dinosaurs he had spent his life studying. His right eye was covered in bandages, his arm hung in a sling, and he slept soundly, oblivious to the world around him. In the darkness of the hangar, a pair of smaller dinosaurs silently entered the room. Ripper, the male Indoraptor, led the way, slightly larger and more imposing than his mate, Blue, the female adult Velociraptor. The two creatures moved with grace and purpose, their clawed arms linked together in a show of unity and affection. Without disturbing Owen, Ripper and Blue settled down on the floor in front of him, curling up together in a silent display of love and tenderness. As they lay side by side, Blue began to quietly sob, tears streaming down her reptilian face. "I miss my team so much," she whispered, her voice barely audible in the stillness of the room. "I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta." Ripper extended his clawed hand, gently patting Blue's side in a gesture of comfort. "Shish, relax, my sweetheart. It's going to be okay. You are safe with me." Blue snuggled closer to Ripper, seeking solace in his embrace. She continued to cry, mourning the loss of her beloved teammates, while Ripper held her close, his own heart heavy with sorrow. As Blue wept, Ripper used his long claws to wipe away her tears, his touch gentle and reassuring. "Don't worry, sweetie. I am here for you. Just breathe and let it all out." Slowly, Blue began to calm down, her sobs quieting as she nestled against Ripper, her body shaking with emotion. She smiled through her tears, grateful for the comfort and love he offered her in her time of need. The two dinosaurs lay entwined on the floor, their bond unbreakable despite the dangers that surrounded them. In the darkness of the hangar, their love shone bright, a beacon of hope in a world filled with chaos and uncertainty. As Owen slept on, unaware of the silent drama playing out before him, Ripper and Blue found solace in each other's arms, their love transcending the barriers of language and species. And in that moment, as they clung to each other in the face of adversity, they knew that together, they could conquer anything that came their way. And so, as the night wore on, Ripper and Blue slept peacefully, their hearts entwined, their love alight in the darkness. And as the first rays of dawn began to creep into the hangar, they knew that no matter what trials lay ahead, they would face them together, united in their bond of love and devotion. Words. 467. The night was dark and cold outside the hangar, as Owen Grady lay heavily injured inside the air-conditioned smoke-filled room. His right eye was covered in bandages, his right arm bandaged and hanging. He sat slumped in a chair, completely motionless, his body still and his eyes closed. As he slept, two smaller dinosaurs entered the room. Ripper, the male black Indoraptor, and Blue, the female adult Velociraptor, moved silently, holding their clawed arms together. They exchanged silent romantic glances, a bond evident between the two dinosaurs. Ripper, slightly larger than his mate Blue, smiled as they settled down on the floor to sleep in front of Owen. Blue let out silent tears from her closed reptilian eyes as she curled up beside Ripper. I miss my team so much. I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta, she whispered in her sleeping state, tears streaming down her face. Ripper gently patted Blue's body, his clawed arm comforting her as he whispered, Shish, relax my sweetheart. It's going to be okay. He pulled her closer to him, letting her cry and mourn the loss of her teammates. Blue hugged Ripper tightly, her sobs quiet but heart-wrenching. I miss my team so much, they're gone now, she cried softly, her voice filled with sadness. Ripper hugged her back, his long clawed fingers wiping away her tears. Don't worry sweetie, I'm here for you. Just relax and calm down, he reassured her, rubbing her head gently. Blue slowly calmed down, her tears drying as she nestled closer to Ripper, a small smile playing on her lips. As they slept, Ripper continued to comfort Blue, his presence a source of solace for her. The bond between the two dinosaurs was undeniable, a love that transcended species. Blue, still hugging Ripper in her sleep, felt safe and loved in his embrace. The night passed, the air in the hangar still and quiet. Owen Grady stirred in his sleep, his injuries healing slowly. He opened his eyes to see Ripper and Blue curled up on the floor, their bodies intertwined in a loving embrace. The night was dark and silent outside the hangar, the only sound being the distant hoot of an owl. Inside, the air-conditioned smoke-filled room of the hangar was dimly lit as Owen Grady lay sleeping on a chair, his body covered in bandages from his injuries. His right eye was swollen shut, and his right arm hung limply at his side. In the main hall, two romantic dinosaurs entered silently. Ripper, the male black Indoraptor, was slightly larger than his mate, Blue, the female adult Velociraptor. The two creatures walked in together, holding their clawed arms as they exchanged silent, loving glances. Without disturbing Owen, the pair settled down on the floor in front of him, snuggling up to each other as they curled up for the night. Blue, in her sleeping state, began to quietly weep, tears slipping from her closed reptilian eyes. She murmured softly, I miss my team so much. Charlie, Echo, Delta. Ripper, sensing his mate's sadness, gently patted her side with his clawed arm. Shish, my love, it's going to be okay, he whispered in a soothing tone. He used his claws to draw Blue closer to him, holding her tight as she continued to cry. As Blue mourned the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Ripper hugged her tightly, offering comfort and support. Don't worry, sweetie, I'm here for you, he reassured her, stroking her head with his clawed fingers. Blue slowly started to calm down, her tears drying as she nestled against Ripper, feeling safe and loved in his embrace. Ripper wiped the remaining tears from her eyes, gazing at her with affection as she smiled softly, her reptilian eyes still filled with emotion. The night passed peacefully, with the two dinosaurs sleeping soundly, wrapped in each other's arms. Blue held onto Ripper, grateful for his comforting presence as they drifted off into dreams. In the morning, Owen awoke to the sight of the two dinosaurs cuddled on the floor before him. He watched them in wonder, amazed by the bond between them. Slowly, he reached out a hand to stroke Blue's scaled head, feeling a sense of connection with these extraordinary creatures. As Owen sat with the dinosaurs, sharing this silent moment of understanding, he knew that he had witnessed something truly special. The love and loyalty between Blue and Ripper touched his heart, reminding him of the importance of compassion and companionship in a world filled with danger and uncertainty. And so, as the sun rose and dawn broke over the horizon, Owen Grady smiled, grateful for the lesson he had learned from the romantic dinosaur duo. The night was still and quiet outside of the hangar, the moon casting a soft glow on the darkened landscape. Inside the air-conditioned, smoke-filled room of the hangar, Owen Grady lay heavily injured, his right eye covered in bandages and his right arm hanging in a sling. He was sleeping on a chair, completely motionless. As Owen slept, two smaller dinosaurs entered the room. Ripper, the male black Indoraptor, slightly larger than his romantic wife Blue, the female adult Velociraptor. The two dinosaurs held their clawed arms together as they silently made their way towards Owen. They exchanged glances, sharing silent romantic dialogues without making a sound. A small smile played on their faces as they leaned in to share a silent kiss. Ripper and Blue settled down on the floor in front of Owen, curling up and cuddling each other as they drifted off to sleep. Blue, in her sleeping state, began to silently shed tears from her closed reptilian eyes. She sobbed quietly, expressing her grief over the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta. Ripper, noticing Blue's distress, raised his clawed arm and gently patted her back. Shish, relax my sweetheart, he whispered in his sleeping state. It's going to be okay. You are going to wake this guy up. He used his claws to pull Blue closer to himself, comforting her as she continued to cry and mourn. Blue turned to face Ripper, hugging him tightly as she sobbed. I miss my team so much, she whispered in a sad, sobbing voice. Ripper hugged her back, using his claws to wipe away her tears. Don't worry sweetie, I am here for you. Just relax, take it easy, and calm down, he murmured, his tone gentle and soothing. Blue slowly began to calm down, still hugging Ripper as she nestled near him. She smiled softly through her tears, her reptilian eyes filled with emotion. Ripper held her close, comforting her as she drifted back into a peaceful sleep. The scene ended with the two romantic dinosaurs curled up together on the floor, still hugging each other as they slept. The air in the room was filled with a sense of love and comfort, even in the midst of grief and loss. As the night wore on, Owen Grady remained asleep, unaware of the silent drama unfolding before him. The bond between Ripper and Blue was unbreakable, a testament to the enduring power of love and companionship, even in the face of tragedy. And as the moon continued to watch over them, the two dinosaurs slept peacefully, wrapped in each other's embrace. Words. 436. It was a cold and dark night outside the hangar where Owen Grady, heavily injured and bandaged, slept on a chair in the air-conditioned smoke-filled room. As he lay motionless, two romantic smaller dinosaurs entered the main hall, Ripper the male black Indoraptor and Blue, the female adult Velociraptor. They held their clawed arms together, exchanging silent romantic gestures as they settled down on the floor to sleep beside Owen. Blue, in her sleeping state, began to cry and mourn the loss of her Velociraptor teammates. She sobbed silently, expressing her sadness and longing for Charlie, Echo, and Delta. Ripper, sensing her pain, gently patted her and pulled her closer to him, whispering comforting words. He wiped away her tears with his long clawed finger, reassuring her that he was there for her. As Blue hugged Ripper, still crying, she expressed her grief. Despite her sadness, she found solace in her husband's embrace. Ripper continued to comfort her, urging her to relax and calm down. Blue slowly returned to her sleeping state, a faint smile on her face as she snuggled closer to Ripper. The scene was both heartwarming and heartbreaking, showcasing the deep bond between the romantic dinosaur couple. As they slept peacefully on the floor, Owen remained unaware of the emotional exchange happening right in front of him. The story delved into the complex emotions of loss, love, and comfort, portrayed through the unique relationship between the Indoraptor and the Velociraptor. The dialogue-centric narrative captured the depth of their connection, even without words. The thriller genre added an eerie yet captivating atmosphere to the story, making the reader empathize with the characters' struggles and emotions. In the end, the romantic dinosaur duo found solace in each other's arms, offering support and love in the midst of grief and pain. Their silent communication and gestures spoke volumes, highlighting the power of love and companionship in the face of adversity. Overall, the story was a poignant exploration of relationships, loss, and resilience, infused with creativity and emotion. It painted a vivid picture of a unique bond between two unlikely characters, leaving a lasting impact on the reader's heart. Words. 359. It was a dark and stormy night outside the hangar where Owen Grady lay, heavily injured and bandaged. His right eye was covered in gauze, his right arm hanging limp at his side. The air inside the hangar was thick with smoke, the air conditioning struggling to keep the room cool. As Owen slept in his chair, two smaller dinosaurs entered the room. Ripper, a black Indoraptor, and Blue, a female Velociraptor, walked quietly into the room. The two dinosaurs, who were a romantic couple, held hands as they silently made their way towards Owen. Without disturbing him, Ripper and Blue settled down on the floor in front of Owen. They cuddled together, their bodies pressed close in a display of affection. Blue, in her sleeping state, began to cry softly. Tears welled up in her reptilian eyes as she silently mourned the loss of her Velociraptor teammates. Ripper reached out a clawed hand to comfort her, patting her gently on the back. He whispered soothing words to her, his deep voice a comforting presence in the dark room. Blue leaned into his touch, seeking solace in the embrace of her loving mate. As Blue continued to cry, Ripper held her close, using his claws to wipe away her tears. He murmured words of reassurance, telling her that everything would be okay, that he was there for her. Slowly, Blue's sobs quieted, and she nestled closer to Ripper, finding comfort in his presence. As the night wore on, the two dinosaurs slept peacefully on the floor, their bodies entwined in a silent display of love and support. Owen, unaware of the tender scene unfolding before him, slept on in his chair, the gentle sounds of the dinosaurs breathing lulling him into a restful slumber. The night was dark and silent outside the hangar, the only sound being the gentle whirring of the air conditioning. Inside, the room was filled with a thick smoke, making it difficult to see more than a few feet ahead. Owen Grady sat slouched in a chair, his body covered in bandages as he slept. His injured right eye was swollen shut, and his right arm hung limp at his side. As Owen slept, two smaller dinosaurs entered the room. The male, named Ripper, was a black Indoraptor with a yellow band trailing down his body. The female, Blue, was a fully grown Velociraptor with sleek blue scales. The pair walked silently into the room, their clawed arms intertwined in a display of affection. Ripper and Blue settled down on the floor in front of Owen, cuddling together as they prepared to sleep. Blue couldn't hold back her tears, silently sobbing and mourning the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Charlie, Echo, and Delta. As she cried, Ripper gently patted her back and reassured her in his comforting tone. "Shish, relax my sweetheart," Ripper murmured. "It's going to be okay. You'll wake this guy up." He pulled Blue closer to him, letting her cry into his chest as she clung to him for comfort. The loss of her teammates weighed heavily on her, but Ripper was there to support her in her time of need. "I miss my team so much," Blue whispered through her tears. "They are gone now, and left me forever." Ripper continued to pat her back and stroke her head, his long claws being surprisingly gentle as he wiped away her tears. Don't worry, sweetie, he reassured her. I am here for you. Just relax, take it easy, and calm down. Gradually, Blue began to calm down, her tears drying up as she nestled closer to Ripper. She smiled softly, her eyes still filled with tears but her expression one of contentment as she snuggled into his side. As they both drifted off to sleep, still embracing each other on the floor, the hangar was filled with a sense of warmth and tenderness. The unlikely pair of dinosaurs found solace in each other's company, their love transcending the boundaries of species. And so, Owen Grady remained unaware of the intimate moment unfolding right under his nose, as Ripper and Blue continued to sleep peacefully, wrapped in each other's arms. In the darkness of the hangar, their love shone bright, a beacon of hope in a world filled with danger and uncertainty. Words. 425. The night was dark and quiet outside the hangar as Owen Grady lay motionless in the air-conditioned smoke-filled room, his injured body covered in bandages. His right eye was swollen shut, and his right arm hung limply at his side. He was exhausted from the day's events and had finally succumbed to sleep, his breathing steady and peaceful. Inside the main hall of the hangar, two unlikely companions quietly entered. Ripper, the male black Indoraptor with a striking yellow band trailing down his body, walked alongside his mate, Blue, the female adult Velociraptor. Despite their differences in size and appearance, the two dinosaurs shared a deep bond, their clawed arms intertwined in a show of unity and affection. As they approached Owen, Ripper and Blue exchanged a knowing look, their eyes filled with an unspoken connection. Without disturbing the sleeping man, they settled down on the floor beside him, curling up together in a silent display of solidarity and love. In her sleep, Blue began to release tears from her closed reptilian eyes, her body shaking with suppressed emotion. She whispered softly, her voice filled with sorrow, I miss my team so much. I miss Charlie, Echo, and Delta. Ripper, sensing Blue's pain, gently reached out to her, his clawed hand brushing against her trembling form. In a soothing voice, he reassured her, Shish, relax, my sweetheart. It's going to be okay. You are not alone. I am here for you. As Blue continued to cry and mourn the loss of her Velociraptor teammates, Ripper pulled her close, offering comfort and solace. He held her tightly, his presence a source of strength and support in her time of need. Blue clung to Ripper, her sobs gradually subsiding as she found solace in his embrace. He wiped away her tears with a gentle touch, his love and devotion evident in every gesture. The two dinosaurs slept peacefully, intertwined in a bond that transcended species and language. As the night wore on, their breathing synchronized, a silent rhythm of companionship and understanding. At last, as the first light of dawn began to filter through the windows of the hangar, Ripper and Blue stirred from their sleep. They shared a final, tender moment, a silent exchange of gratitude and love before going their separate ways. As Owen Grady stirred from his slumber, he felt a sense of peace and serenity wash over him. Though he had been through many trials and tribulations, he knew that he was not alone. In the presence of these remarkable creatures, he had found a new kind of family, one that transcended boundaries and defied expectations. And so, as the sun rose over the horizon, casting a warm glow over the hangar, Owen Grady smiled. He knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he would face them with courage and determination, buoyed by the love and companionship of his loyal friends, Ripper and Blue. For in their unlikely bond, he had found a strength and resilience that would carry him through even the darkest of days. Words. 509.